Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/TalesFromRetail, where people who work in retail tell us their best stories about their bosses, employees, or those interesting customers they see daily. 12 items or less. Double R, Roidrager. You know the type. Huge, twitchy, lived in the gym. GF, Roidrager's trashy girlfriend, who still had an 80s perm. OP, teenager grocery store cashier. AM, middle-aged awesome manager, who had handled many a Florida man. Unfortunately, I was on the express lane that day. We'd gotten word blasted down from National that secret shoppers reported people in the express lane with big orders. It was a valid complaint. They weren't putting enough cashiers on due to a cost-cutting measure insinuated by the regional director, so lines were ridiculous. We'd been taking them on express when it was empty. Regardless, now we had strict instructions, no more than 20 items in the 12 or less lane. It could get you written up and hurt your raises, or even result in termination if you got 3 inside some time period. I forget. The cashiers were responsible for keeping the register candy and magazines stocked and neat. Also, the front of the store displays between the last register and produce. Those were the weekly big sale items, and this giant cardboard Kool-Aid monstrosity of doom that contained thousands of packets of heavily dyed citric acid and artificial flavour. Many a kid trashed that thing. It was the bane of our existence. So was the nightly fronting of the baby food aisle. But that's not relevant to this story. I just like to whine about fronting baby food. Those little jars were evil. Roidrager and his girlfriend and his very full cart hop in my express lane while an elderly lady is just finishing up her transaction. The girlfriend's whining to Roidrager about the wait. She wants to go somewhere else. This is boring. He starts telling her to shut up. They got into a mild spat instead of putting things on the belt, so I let them be to finish the elderly lady's transaction. When I was with her, Roidrager snapped at his girlfriend, something about how they're checking out now and to stop being so moody. As kindly as possible, I pointed out the 12 items or less sign and explained I wasn't permitted to check out anybody with more than a few over. Manager's orders. There were lanes open down the way. Roidrager leaned over the counter at me, informed me loudly that he didn't have time to wait and listen to his girlfriend, and I would be checking him out immediately or else. I hit my panic button and flipped on my register light. That automatically called the police and set off silent alarms in the back areas of the store. He started slamming down his things on the belt as I attempted to explain that I had called a manager, but I could not ring his things up without approval. I could literally get fired for it. There had been complaints. That's when Roidrager started to really lose it. Informed me quite loudly that he had a complaint too. Was his complaint less important than anybody else's? This went on with my parentage being called into question and stuff slamming on the counter so hard a couple things even opened. My awesome manager arrived running up from the back where he'd been dealing with a delivery issue. My manager was not a small man, but Roidrager was freaking huge. My manager told me to go in his office, up half a level with half walls where you can see all the registers easily. He'd handle this. I fled. Roidrager did not take that well. Roidrager demanded that the C word ring him up, not some pencil neck suit. My manager was quite firm that nobody would be ringing him up and asked him to leave. Roidrager lost it completely and started swearing, arm waving and knocking magazines off the display. The girlfriend did not even cower at this like you'd think. She started whining about how long they'd already been there and how she didn't want to do it all again. Roidrager yelled something about being done with all this. Then he gave the still, mostly full cart, a mighty shove. It went careening down towards produce and straight into the giant Kool-Aid display, knocking the entire thing over and scattering hundreds of packets of Kool-Aid across all of produce. Roidrager physically dragged his girlfriend out by the arm, and we never saw them again. About 15 minutes later, the cops showed up. Nice job on that panic button, guys. They took our reports and security footage, but nobody knew his name or anything useful. The parking lot cameras had bad coverage and hadn't seen anything helpful either. That was the one and only time I ever cried at work. It was terrifying. I was also closing. That display was my job to fix before I clocked out for the night. Awesome manager helped me, as did most of the rest of the staff once they were done with their areas. But but it was a good hour and a half putting back together the cardboard display, which was a dented mess, and sorting hundreds and hundreds of Kool-Aid packets back into their correct slots. Then I still had to front the baby food. They helped with that too. By next week, Awesome Manager had told the district manager to pound sand and started putting enough cashiers on shifts. It's white. I sell and repair sewing machines for a living. A customer picked up their repaired sewing machine, no issues. Then, I get a call later in that day that they got the wrong machine. Okay, no problem. It's rare, but mistakes happen. Told them to bring the machine back and we'd get everything straightened out. Now, when we check a machine in, we take the make, model, and serial number for such issues as this. The customer also has to sign a printed receipt authorizing us to do the work, and on that paper is the make, model, and serial number. This is very important. Note, customer was older. Customer comes back in with the machine and I pull up their work order in our system, check the model and serial number against what's listed, and they match. Customer is still adamant that they got the wrong sewing machine, so I go get my boss. They also verify everything. Customer still adamant. Luckily, the original signed receipt we tag on the machine was just still in the recycling bin, so we pull it out, show the customer the matching make, model, and serial number, but they are still adamant that it's not their machine. My boss asks if the customer can at least tell us what the make of their machine is, so we have somewhere to start, if by some huge mistake we put the wrong machine info on their tag that they signed. This is verbatim, as I can still remember it years later. I don't know, but it's white. For those unfamiliar with sewing machines, most of them are covered in white plastic. Older ones and newer, cheapish ones can be different colours. So my boss asks if the customer could remember any features on the machine. They claim the whole thing is white. No decals, screens, nothing. Whereas this machine had an electronic screen and the make and model at the bottom. Note, every machine at least has the make on the front and most have the model as well. We go through this routine for several minutes, the customer getting more and more angry by the minute and my boss keeping a cool head. They're pretty good at that. We ask the customer to bring in proof of what their machine actually is, but they don't think they have any of the records. Finally, the customer gives up, takes the machine and leaves, threatening to call the Better Business Bureau on us. You'd think the story would end there, right? Wrong. My boss gets a call a couple weeks later from a local TV station looking to do a story. Apparently, the customer had called them to complain. My boss tells him the whole story and the TV station guy agrees. They probably won't pursue this, but the customer is still furious. In total, my boss got a call from another TV station and radio station, and a newspaper I believe, gave them the same info, and all agreed they wouldn't be pursuing it any further. Also note, the machine the customer received, their machine, wasn't a cheap machine, it was a good quality, expensive machine. Oh my god, they must have had a really slow news day in that town. My smoking lady. I work at a gas station. Yippee! There's this cute little old lady that comes in every day. Think 5'2", 100 pounds, 90-year-old lady. She gets a $5 scratch off, a $2 scratch off, and 2 packs of L&M Light 100s. And she's absolutely adorable. If she wins on the scratches, she gives whoever's working that shift $1. One day, I had it all ready for her when she walked in the door, and she cracks a joke about coming in all the time. I said, well, you're the only one who gets the L&Ms, not to mention multiple. And she comes back with, oh honey, I've had lung cancer 3 times. Beat it 3 times. God wants me to smoke. I was speechless. 3 times, and beat it. Her doctor is probably so upset. Like, hey woman, stop smoking, you've got cancer again. And this lady's like, lol, nah, cancer's nothing. I mean, this lady's 90 years old, she's already won, she can do whatever she wants. Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you did, remember to leave a like on it and subscribe if you aren't already. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. But thank you so much for watching and I will see you very soon.